in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Hello there. Can we see the Warhol Bridge from here? Sorry, just a sec. No. Yes. Okay, that's it. I've been out of town and I just hadn't seen it, and I was so excited about this Knit the Bridge thing they were doing, right? And in my head, I pictured what it would be.
Aw, you don't like it?
It's a total disappointment
No,
to
it
me.
is not.
I'm sorry. I don't know what I was thinking, but I was thinking every square inch of it. That's what a knit bomb is. You just literally enclose an object in yarn and knitting. And it's not. I mean, so on the railings, it just, the suspension thingamajigs are not. All the suspension stuff is not covered, and so you don't get a sense of, you're not blown away. I'm sorry. I was so excited about this thing, but and it seems to me that the pictures that were put out in their initial advertising of join up, help knit the bridge. I swear those pictures showed a bridge just totally encased in yarn. I'm sorry, I know a lot of work has gone into it, and I'm not even sure it's finished. Is it finished? That's finished? All right. Well, I'm afraid my imagination ran away with itself, because that's not what I expected. It's not the kind of pow. It's just not a pow. It's not a yarn bridge, which is what ultimately it should look like. I mean, I have seen trees done where every branch, every twig, and so it just simply looks like a tree made of yarn. That does not look like a bridge made of yarn. It looks like a bridge made of steel with some yarn draped around here and there. I'm sorry. If I'm offending anyone who took part, forgive me. It's just not what I expected. I remember as I left town, I said excitedly to my son, I said, when we get back, the bridge is going to be this amazing thing, and then it's not. Okay, hello, I'm here, kind of, sort of. It's always rough to come back to work, isn't it? And especially to work in August, when everybody else is on vacation. It's hard. But here I am, nonetheless. And just to show that I'm still essentially in vacation mode, while I professionally read my newspapers this morning and cut out all the kinds of stories that I thought would be great fodder for conversation, and then took those stories down to where my purse and my little tote bag is, and Then I must have just left them there. Because when I got here, there ain't nothing. I have brought nothing. Which is always a disconcerting feeling when you're hearing in your headphones, and one Cullen show will begin in 5 minutes. Thinking, what? Anyway, the bridge was one of those things that I thought I wanted to talk about. So there I talked about it. I bummed everybody out about it. I don't know. I'm sure it's very pretty in its way. But it just didn't seem like what it could be. All right, here's somebody writing about the yarn bombing. Let's see. Welcome back. Hope you had a good vacation. Anyhow, I walked up to the yarn bombing. It is kind of neat. Something really different. Have to do the other side of the bridge, though. Yeah, well, Lori, yeah, that's not what I was thinking it was going to be. You know, it's just not. If it were done like a true bomb, you wouldn't see any yellow bridge. You wouldn't see any. That would all, so they didn't, whatever, they either didn't have enough time or money to really, really, really do it. That. And it's sad because I know a lot of work went into that. And when I was gone, I did see, I checked out the Post-Gazette, and they had this thing about the bridge, you know, being, in case you hadn't seen it. And so I clicked on the picture, and I thought, what? That can't be it. So I was stunned when I saw the picture. It wasn't until just now that I eyeballed it myself. No, it's not right. I know I'm a tough grader. That's no A. Not even sure it's a B. Now I will be quiet. So one of the nice things about being on vacation is you sort of avoid news. I didn't know the Pirates had been swept by the Rockies, which was good because that did not intrude upon the enjoyment of my time in lovely Green Bay, Wisconsin. Which, by the way, I have to tell you, there was someone with us who had never been there before, and he asked to see the downtown. And I warned him. I said, there really isn't a downtown. This is a city without a downtown. It used to have a downtown when I was a child. But then, you know what happened. The late 60s, the early 70s, and Americans becoming 2-car, 3-car families and wanting to move out. So people started, even in a little town like that of 70, at the time, maybe 70,000 people, the downtown was literally abandoned as the malls were developed outside, and then all the development happened out there, and a little town like that ends up with, it wasn't just major cities, ends up with a completely gutted core. When, of course, it had had a delightful downtown for its hundreds and hundreds of years. Wonderful shops, wonderful restaurants, and a lot of stuff that was retained for hundreds of years. So, you know, with all the charm of that, the soda fountains, the local department stores, all that kind of thing. Gone. And not just gone, but efforts by urban planners, the same kind of people that did what they did to East Liberty in the 70s, did it to Green Bay, Wisconsin. And they put up they tried to put a mall where the downtown had been. And it is now empty. I mean, there's nothing in it. You go downtown in that city and nothing is there. So when I showed this person who'd never been there around, it was embarrassing. And that was a wonderful men's clothing store where my father got all shuddered. That was where I bought my shoes. This was the bank. That was the movie theater. Gone, gone, gone. Nothing. There is literally nothing there. And think of all the cities that happened to. I mean, I think sometimes we think of a city losing its core as a racial thing, where within the inner city, the poorer people and African American people who couldn't afford to move out to the greenery of the suburbs stayed put, and all the whites fled, right? That's supposedly what happened. That's not what happened in Green Bay, Wisconsin. It's a lily white city. And it really wasn't even, it wasn't the socioeconomic thing wasn't part of it either. I don't know. Sad as hell. And all these years later, they clearly haven't figured out what to do. They still got some beautiful buildings down there, shuttered and empty. Disgusting. All right. So, one of the things that they have done right is Green Bay is on a river and a bay, the Fox River. It's a big river. And it, too, industrial, like the rivers here, the paper mills there in Green Bay. And they, too, have finally reclaimed, particularly one bank of the river with beautiful bike and walking trails, and had a wonderful time going down there, watching people fishing and biking and picnicking and all that kind of stuff. But there were signs posted all along that bikes were to yield at all times to pedestrians. And, in fact, they had rules that bikers, someone on a bike coming up on to somebody who was walking, had to give them distance and had to audibly let them know they were about to overtake them. So when you're walking, you would on occasion hear somebody say, "Coming up behind you, on your left." And, of course, some people didn't. And you're walking and you don't hear them, and you just, all of a sudden there's somebody blowing by you. Also, the people using the bikes or rollerblades, anything on wheels, anything that isn't foot, have got to buy a permit. So it's funny because there on their trails, it's walking and bike trails with walkers getting the right-of-way, which is different than we have it here. Now, in today's paper, the Post-Gazette, there was a story about how the police, I believe it was in West Homestead, where the Waterworks Mall and Sandcastle reside, and where that marvelous Allegheny bike trail and is it just called the bike trail, or is it a bike and hiking?
I don't know.
Because, I mean, obviously people walk it, too. Anyway, they were talking about how the cops there have, because of complaints they've had from walkers, the bikes have, bike lanes now have stop signs that are put on the roadway at places where they want bikers to stop, because this is where pedestrians are, this is where cars are maybe coming out of Costco or Sandcastle, and that there are rules of the road. And there's all these people that they're interviewing, bikers, who say, we don't have to stop. You can't have stop signs on a bike trail. And the reporter who was doing the story just hung around for about a half hour and casually counted all of the bikers and how many obeyed the law? 2. 2 out of a whole lot. Everybody else, she said, blew right through. So here's an interesting thing. We get these complaints all the time from bikers that drivers of cars are not courteous to them. Well, I got news for the bikes. You are often not courteous as well, not only to cars, but also to pedestrians. And it just comes down to if everybody would stop feeling like they're the only thing on the road and everybody just exercise some, some good judgment and follow the damn rules. So anyway, the bike trails. I am getting annoyed by bikers. I'm always annoyed by drivers. The only ones left not to be annoyed at thus far are pedestrians, and if they're texting, I'm annoyed by them too. It's hard out there. It's tough. Okay. Oh, I have to tell you one other encounter I had before I left Pittsburgh. I was over at someone's home these people are much more with it than I. They're hip and they're just always out there. They style. They got style. And we had a very lovely little barbecue dinner. And then the gentleman, who is a contractor, he starts smoking a cigarette. And you don't see that very often, and I wasn't aware that he did. And I'd look, I said, boy, when did... And then I noticed the cigarette. The cigarette was not a cigarette. It was one of those... E-cigarettes. And he said, do you want to try it? I said, yeah. So I did. Wow. Feels like a cigarette in your hand. Inhales like a cigarette in your mouth, blows out what looks like smoke, so you can do the whole thing, and there is nicotine in it. It is a nicotine delivery system, but that's not smoke. That's water vapor. And so it is a new way to get some nicotine in your system and make yourself feel like you're smoking. I'm a little confused about it, but in New York City, and I know there was a big thing in the New York Times about it, you're seeing people in all these places, bars, restaurants, where it's, the law has been the law for some time now. You cannot smoke. You see people smoking these things all over the place, indoors. And it is not illegal. Because the law says nothing about these gizmos. And because they produce none of that secondhand smoke. So why shouldn't people be able... I think Tony Norman did a column on this. So you can bet that places are going to try to amend these laws to say, and that includes e-cigarettes. But should it? And I think that's what Tony's column was about. Because... those, rather than huddling out there, in the winter, why shouldn't somebody with a habit, now that they've discovered a way to give them their fix, which also gives them all the psychological benefits that smokers seek in holding, the oral stuff and the tactile stuff of a cigarette. And they come with these little cartridges, which you put in. They have to be, but they're really some of them are really nice looking. I wouldn't do it. I have quit smoking. But if it was a problem for me, I think that would be a great idea. So I encountered my first e-cigarette and took a drag. And even in a little shop in Green Bay that I stopped in, a tobacco shop, I asked the guy, do you have these e-cigarettes? He said, oh, my God. Or as he said, oh my God, I'm selling them like hotcakes. Hello? Hi, caller. Bye, caller.
Hey, real quick, I just want to say, if someone had one of those cigarettes you're talking about, and you had a cold, now I got to worry about the person covering their mouth, and now he's going to blow out this mist that has his cold germs in it. That's something to think about. Have a good day.
You too. Yeah, but I mean, yeah. But, I mean, we're surrounded by these germs all the time. I mean, I know someone who will not ride public transportation because of their feet. Well, just think. I mean, I couldn't even touch the, think of who's been sitting there. I mean, my God, you cannot avoid other people's germs. And there's some evidence that we've gotten so phobic about that with all our sterilization and our, what are those soaps that are bacteria, killing soaps, and that we actually, our bodies don't have good immune systems anymore because they're supposed to be able to take this kind of thing in and deal with it in its own way. The body is a great thing. They think perhaps that more people have allergies now because they grow up in environments that are too clean, too sterile. Because the crazed young mothers who are terrified of a child, dropping something on the floor and then putting it in its mouth. God, come on. That's how you develop an immune system. Here we have something from Tom Sokolowski with the subject line of stinko. Do you think that's something I should look at? Oh, Tom, you're always so harsh. Tom says this: that Warhol Bridge yarn project is a hideous travesty. I really think it's pretty awful, too. It reminds me of everyone's demon auntie's gift of a knitted blanket on their 10th birthday. Those blankets only received their due when, as a sick child, said blanket swaddling the same was vomited upon. Oh, Tom, you woke up on the wrong side of the bed. This is what happens when guilds of crafties rather than artists are given control.
God, shut up, Tom.
Oh, Jess is mad. She says you're an elitist jerk. I don't like it either, Tom. I mean, it's not at all what I thought. And I mean, the reality is if that had been done right, it would have been amazing. To do it right, that bridge should have looked like it was made of yarn. It doesn't look like that. Yeah, it looks like somebody hung a bunch of Afghans out to dry. Well, Tom, you're a little harsh. But I do agree with your generalized assessment, and I'm so sorry to say it because I had wanted to knit for it. Oh, well. So, I mean, this is the kind of show you're going to get when I leave all my material at home. I'm sorry about that, but so far so good. Who am I to say? I've got some, I know in my head, some meatier stories that we might want to discuss. Some having to do with certain rodeos, some having to do with stop and frisk, some having to do with naming children, some having to do with, the extraordinary problem of increased racism in this post-racial America. Let's take a break and we'll be back.
More is on the way with Lynn Cullen Live.
Allen Events, producer of the country's most popular high-end festivals, returns to Walnut Street between South Aiken Avenue and South Negley Avenue in Shadyside. The 16th annual Shadyside, the art festival on Walnut Street, will be held August 24th and 25th, transforming this popular downtown shopping district of Pittsburgh into an outdoor art gallery with an eclectic mix of the country's top established artists as well as new and emerging talent. Admission is free and open to the public. Showtimes for the Shadyside, the art festival on Walnut Street, are Saturday 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Sunday 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. For more information, go to artfestival.com.
Don Juan is trying to be good. He's really trying. But hurry, because his manic search for redemption and love through a world dominated by women will last only until August 31st. Pict Theatre brings Don Juan Comes Back from the War, starring David Whalen, to the Henry Hayman Theatre at the Stephen Foster Memorial in Oakland. Call Pict Theatre at 412-561-6000 to book your tickets to this celebration of life, love, and lust.
Go to bergbargains.com for great deals on gift cards from your favorite local restaurants, bars, museums, attractions, and shows. This week, great deals on gift cards to Seba, Cadillac Ranch, and Crazy Mocha. Supplies are limited. Bergbargains.com, Pittsburgh's best bargains. Bergbargains.com.
You're listening.
You're listening to me. Something went wrong. You're listening to me. Oh, by the way, I'm aware. I know. In my head, I think it's Monday, but I know it's Tuesday. And Susan's still up in northern Wisconsin somewhere vacationing, and so she took the day off. Also, my family was together to celebrate my mother's birthday, and all we did, I don't know how your family operates. All we did was eat and drink. We did not, there wasn't a meal that was finished before someone said, "What are we doing for dinner?" We're eating breakfast at like 10. What's for lunch? Oh my God. Ugh. Yeah. Eat, drink, and yes, be merry. Hello.
Hey, she's back.
Yeah.
And why are you so ill of confidence without your little bag of news articles? You do well with just pulling this stuff out of the top of your head.
Yes, but it's scary because and it pisses me off because I did all that prep.
Oh, well, you can do it tomorrow. Yeah.
No, it'll be old stuff tomorrow. And I highlight and I think, ooh, this should be, and then I leave it. I've done it before, but thank you very much. You're a dear to say so.
Vera and I were just here watching you.
Yeah.
And you were talking about smoking.
Yeah.
We didn't know you had quit.
Oh, yeah.
How long has it been? Because Vera told me, she said, well, remember when we were on the Sanity Express?
I wasn't smoking.
You certainly were. She reminded me. She said, yeah. She said she quit smoking. I said, oh, I didn't know
Wait
that.
a minute. So you mean I bummed a cigarette from you?
No, I don't smoke, but Vera does. She
well,
said
I might have bummed
you
one
guys
from
were
her.
clutching in the corner after the bus stop. And
I was smoking. Okay.
And she said, well, she quit. And I said, I guess so. How long has it been?
Well, since Vera caught me.
You mean the Sanity Express was your last smoke?
I don't know. Listen, here's the kind of non-smoker I am. I do if I find myself, and this happens increasingly rarely these days, if I find myself with smokers, I will, yes, sometimes bum a cigarette.
Well, she mentioned another thing that you said that you're compelled to smoke, too, when you're drinking.
Yes.
She said.
That's true.
She admitted to me that she mostly smokes when she's drinking.
Yeah, well, if I'm with smokers and I'm drinking, then...
You weren't drinking on the bus to Washington, I don't think.
Oh, you mean you didn't see my little flask? No,
yeah, right.
No, I wasn't. I was barely conscious.
But you must have got off the bus there and got the whiff or was talking to the smokers.
Whatever.
My wife.
No,
she doesn't smoke now either.
Well, good. I quit through hypnosis. I used to do ads for Dr. Stiles.
That's right. That's right.
Right? And I mean, I was a 3-pack-a-day smoker. I was one of those smokers who sometimes had 2 cigarettes going at the same time.
Holy cow, that's crazy.
Yeah,
for how many years?
Maybe 10, 12. Enough that it's still a very big risk
10
factor.
10 or 12, yeah. Well, Vera was smoking for almost 50 years.
Wow.
But she stopped, yeah. And she did, what's the other thing she mentioned? That you, about the e-cigarettes?
Yes.
Did she try it? Well, she said, no, contraire. She said, there may be the tactile and the...
oral?
The oral satisfaction, but she says it's like reading about sex and having sex. There is not the complete satisfaction
of
an e-cigarette. She said it's just a big tease.
Okay, because you don't really feel it going into your... I mean, if you're really looking for that, yes,
you don't have the
in your
chemical.
lungs. Yeah, right. I
Pleasure,
don't know.
right.
But I think for some people it will... it'll help.
Oh, yeah. It's not to say that some people, but... Yeah.
But I think, it's like if in Green Bay, Wisconsin, they're selling like hotcakes, then you're going to start seeing them all over the place.
Yeah. It needs to be perfected, though, a little bit.
Maybe so.
Yeah. But 3 years, that's pretty good there, dear. Yeah.
Thank you.
Excellent. Okay, back to your...
Whatever I was doing, I can't remember. Thank you. Oh, God. Oh, so we're eating and drinking and eating and drinking and eating and drinking. It's a very intense family, and I think we all need to drink when we get together. What? Hello? Mm-hmm. Hello?
Hello, Lynn.
Yes, sir.
Talking about smoking.
Yes.
My wife quit, probably 10 years ago. And whenever we're out, like in a function of some kind, and we go on cruises and stuff, she'll find people smoking, and she'll go over and say, "Excuse me, can I just stand beside you and inhale?"
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Does it work?
My uncle, God bless his soul, he, I didn't know this till I was like in my late 20s, but he smoked, but I never saw him smoke. And I asked him, one time I saw him with a pack of cigarettes, and I said, "When did you start smoking?" He said, "Well, I always kind of smoked, but he only smoked when he drank. And honest to God, a pack of cigarettes could last him almost a year."
So he wasn't a big drinker.
No. When he would go out to a bar or something, and he and I went out to this roadhouse once, and he pulled out and he smoked about 3 cigarettes that night, and that's the only time. And me at that time, I was smoking, and I thought, how do you do that? I just couldn't figure out how you could, like.
Right, to keep
smoke
it, yeah.
3, 4, 5 cigarettes, and then
not do it
not
again.
Have another smoke for 3 or 4 months or whatever.
See, I can do that now. Since I quit, I could smoke 5 cigarettes tonight, and believe me, not have any desire to smoke again. I don't know what it is. I feel like I was never addicted to nicotine. That's so odd.
Yeah, well, that's terrific.
Yeah.
I mean, I quit. Decades and decades and decades ago. I smoked for about 6 or 7 years, and then was able to quit.
Well, they say it's
being in the hospital for a long time.
Okay,
but
yeah.
I was always afraid to try again.
You should be.
Because it's like, no, that's okay.
Right. I once did really start up again when I thought, I can do this, and then started to smoke again. They say it's one of the toughest addictions to kick. Absolutely.
It is. I worked with people who were addicted to, drugs and alcohol, and often went out to Gateway and stuff like that. And Gateway.
They don't let you smoke.
Gateway, Dr. Tversky said, smoking is the most difficult thing because it's a psychological, it's habit, and it's physical.
Yeah.
And it really is. And they would tell the people, people would go to Gateway and they'd say, well, I'm going to give up the drugs, I'm going to give up smoking.
But I can't.
They'd say, no. You can go outside and smoke, do the drugs first, then try tackling smoking. Because smoking was more difficult, really, than
I believe it.
Than giving up alcohol.
I absolutely believe it. Yeah.
Well, listen, you have a good day.
Thank you. Okay. Bye. Okay. So, we're eating in this little restaurant that has been in Green Bay for over 150 years. And it's in an old hotel that still functions. I mean, you still have, it looks like an old Western like in a Western, how when you go in, there's just a little counter, and then there's little mail slots behind the guy that people who are upstairs, maybe their mail would come into. It's just so out of another time. And the same family has owned it forever. And for generations and generations of our family have gone there. And so everybody knows everybody. We went, and it was on my mom's birthday, which was Sunday. And the waitress comes over to my mother and says, Mrs. Miller, she said, you got to go see this. She said, in the bar, there's another woman whose birthday it is today. And she's 88. But you got to go see her. And I said, why are you saying that my mother looks younger than the 88-year-old? She said, oh, my God, it's not even a comparison. She said, that woman looks 20 years older than your mom. And my mother said, oh, well, I'm sure they... I said, Mom, I'll go check it out. So I left the dining room and ran around and I checked, and she looked okay, the 88-year-old, and she had a guy with her, and they were sitting at the bar. And I came back, and the waitress is looking at me like, yeah, so wasn't I? I said, well, I think my mom looks better. I said, but she doesn't look terrible. So then my mother says, I got to go see. So my mother gets up and walks in, and she walks right up to the woman and talks to her for a while. Hey, hi, heard it was your birthday. Oh, yeah, mine too. Well, I'm 91. You're 88. Great. What are you eating? The perch? No, I got the whitefish. Two old ladies sitting at a bar celebrating their 88th and 91st birthdays. It was good. It was good. And then we went over. You don't want to hear any of this. This is just boring. Okay. So, I did on occasion look at my Twitter account, and that's when I saw the thing that happened at the rodeo. And since my sister and her husband were there, and they are residents of the godforsaken state of Missouri, I said to them, are you aware of what happened in your wonderful state? No, they said. So I began to tell them about the rodeo clown dressed as Obama and what was being said by the announcer, and how the crowd was hooting and hollering like they were watching a lynching. And I don't know how you reacted when you first heard that, but the look on the faces of my sister, her husband, and my mother were literally open-mouthed, eyebrows up, open-mouthed, stunned disbelief. Now, what's funny is that that reaction can still be had, even though those were three people who regularly take in the news of the day, who understand the climate of the country, and two of whom live in the state of Missouri. And you've heard my sister rail about the politics there. Even then, they were in disbelief. And I have to tell you, I think that rodeo story, and from what I understand, the crowd's reaction and all of that, is so emblematic of what is happening in this country now that we still won't face. This is not people who disapprove of the president's politics necessarily. These are people who focus constantly on his race. I'm sure you read all this stuff. How the crowd went wild. Did you hear about the man who was there and had brought an exchange student with him to see some American popular culture and a rodeo? And he brought a kid, the exchange student from Taiwan? And that's what that kid saw. A bunch of white people howling, hooting, as a bull chased a black clown dressed exactly as Barack Obama around. That's what that kid saw. Welcome to America. Actually, you can argue the kid that, I mean, if the idea of an exchange is to experience another country, you cannot argue that experience was not a legitimate experience of America. It's a part of America, but that was a pretty official part of America. That was part of the Missouri State Fair. The concept of an angry bull attempting to trample a black man for the amusement of a crowd is neither entertaining nor funny, and is not the type of behavior that our taxpayer-subsidized state fair should promote, says the Democratic minority leader, of course. They ought to yank the funds from this thing immediately. I mean, all the pals now are, stepping up to talk about their astonishment and how shocked. And the more I've read about it, the more I'm seeing coming out of what was said by the PA announcer. Something about how this guy knows he's a clown, at least. Suggesting that the president is a clown. Somebody said that another clown was pulling on the lips of the Obama clown. And all of this to the can you hear the crowd? The laughter, the shouts. But let us not forget, the Chief Justice of our Supreme Court has told us that everything's fine now. We have a black president, so this is a post-racial America, and there is no reason, really, for the Voting Rights Act. And if states want to go back to doing what they so regularly did in the past, which was attempting to prevent black people from voting, they can just go right ahead. And, of course, you see North Carolina and, I don't know if it's north or south, they all the same to me, and Texas falling all over themselves to be the first out of the gate. With, of course, Pennsylvania, the pretender always, right behind them. That's why I say, these are not Americans that I feel I can put the word fellow in front of. My fellow Americans. These are not people that I want to acknowledge as people who are part of some community that I treasure and belong to, and would call them my brother, my sister, which is how I want to feel about my nation. And since there are now so many of them making themselves so apparent, I just want them to disappear. I do. If they want to secede, I want them to go. I really, 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 really do. So, as you know, the president is on vacation right now. And right before he left, last week, there was a protest when he was in Phoenix. a protest at his, wherever he was, visiting there, where a group sang a chorus of "Bye, bye, black sheep." According to the Arizona Republic, one demonstrator was shouting, "He's 47% Negro," while another raised a sign reading, "Impeach the half-white Muslim." This weekend, a similar greeting was given to our president in Orlando, Florida, as protesters lined up outside his motorcade route. And just one of the signs, among many others, did say, "Kenyan, go home." Wow. Just wow. All right. We're taking a second break.
Stick around for more with Lynn Cullen Live after this.
Don Juan is trying to be good. He's really trying. But hurry, because his manic search for redemption and love through a world dominated by women will last only until August 31st. Pict Theatre brings Don Juan Comes Back from the War, starring David Whalen, to the Henry Hayman Theatre at the Stephen Foster Memorial in Oakland. Call Pict Theatre at 412-561-6000 to book your tickets to this celebration of life, love, and lust.
Hi, Lynn. Les Ludwig, your scandal-free independent candidate for mayor of Pittsburgh, the founder of a program that produces revenue opportunities for government, the best long-term news in town. No longer the usual wait for taxes to go up at budget time. Pittsburgh's home, and I've brought a new way to finance government to city council. That thinking is spreading like fire, with 7 cities from Philly to L.A. building finance programs based on it. An example, one community in California has signed a long-term $600,000 per year contract with a soft drink company. Right now, we have over $1 million that may be used to reduce taxes right here in Pittsburgh. Stay tuned as I work as your mayor, building new thinking for a better future. Vote Ludwig, the only scandal-free independent candidate.
Paid for by Les Ludwig for mayor of Pittsburgh.
This week's Pittsburgh City Paper is available now. Pick up one today for a look at the preview of Devon Magwood's homecoming show, plus The Black Crows, the street party at Southside Works, Crash Kings, and news of the weird. Pittsburgh City Paper available at over 1,700 locations throughout Western Pennsylvania and on the web at pghcitypaper.com and on your smartphone with GPS-enabled listings at citypapermobile.com.
Have a question or an opinion? Call Lynn Cullen at 412-316-3381 or email lynn at pghcitypaper.com. Now, more with Lynn Cullen Live.
Chris writes, "I can't believe you smoke 3 packs of cigarettes a day." Wow! I had no idea. I can't imagine what the studio smelled like between you and Doug and all the smoking. Well, I wasn't smoking then. I had stopped smoking, I believe, when I came here to Pittsburgh. I started up a little bit, but dropped it right back down. I mean, I saw the danger and stopped. But the chain smoking was in my 20s up into my 30s. It was all in Wisconsin when I was working. And one of the reasons I stopped was because it so affected my voice that I was hacking and I just had disgusting smoker hack. The hack I have now is not a smoker hack; it's a postnasal drip. But I had to stop because my job was in jeopardy. I was an anchor woman then, and I have to be able to talk. But when I came here and when I worked in the Channel 4 newsroom, there were tons of smokers there. And so even though I had stopped smoking, I have a feeling just in terms of secondhand smoke, I was still probably getting about a half a pack a day. I regularly edited my stories for the news in a tiny little glassed-in, totally enclosed cubicle with a film editor. There was an editor, and there was me, and then all the equipment, and we would sit in there and figure out which pictures to put on the words and how it should all get put together. And that might take an hour and a half, and he chain smoked. And that booth was just total smoke. I sat next to Paul Long. He smoked cigars. There was cigar smoke. There was pipe smoke. There was, I mean, when you think of it, you know, you'd go into a restaurant. I remember being shocked when I first moved to Pittsburgh, and there was a woman standing in front of me at a checkout line at the Giant Eagle, and she was smoking. And in Wisconsin, I guess, because they didn't allow you to smoke in a grocery store, because it struck me as so odd. I'd never seen it before. So around here, could you smoke during a movie? Mm-hmm. You could smoke during the movie. Okay, so there was no place to get away from smoke. Smoked in the movies. You got on a train, there was smoking. You got on an airplane, they were smoking the whole time. In these enclosed areas. So even if you weren't a smoker, God, you were getting a ton. And it's amazing. It's really amazing how activists were able to turn that not only around, but to take something that had been considered glamorous and a sign that you were somebody or arrived, to take that and turn it into this thing that makes you into a leper. And it happened pretty damn quickly. Amazing. Wow. But for all of us who've stopped, I got news for you. You by stopping, lessen your risk of lung cancer, but boy, you do not get rid of it. The risk is there. I know far too many people who smoked in their youth, quit, thought, I did it, my lungs are clear, and they look clear, feel clear, sound clear, then they get cancer. So, I don't know. And you know how I started smoking? Did I ever tell you that story? Stupid. All my friends were smoking in high school. I didn't smoke in high school. I thought it was disgusting. I thought my parents didn't smoke, and I didn't like the smell, and I just thought it was stupid. And so I didn't smoke. But then I went to college, and I was a freshman in college, and coming from the backwaters of little Green Bay, Wisconsin, where I had heard about this stuff called marijuana. Mm-hmm. And I was concerned that I would find myself at a social event in which marijuana was being consumed, and that I would want to, as a curious young person, want to try it. But I knew I couldn't inhale, and so I thought I'd make a fool of myself. This is how an 18-year-old thinks. And so I'll inhale, and then I'll start coughing and hacking, and everyone will think I'm an idiot. And so I actually bought a pack of cigarettes. And I recall this. I sat at my desk in my little dorm room, and I had a mirror. For some reason, I thought if I look in a mirror, I know how people look when there's... And I'd sit there with this mirror and light the cigarette, and then I'd... and then try to blow. And I coughing. It took me a while to be able to keep the smoke down and then to exhale. So I was all ready for that marijuana should it ever come through the door or into my life. I became a smoker. That attempt to practice so I could smoke some pot if it came my way made me into that 3-pack a day smoker. Poof. Stupid! Never occurred to me that you could learn to smoke marijuana but not have to smoke cigarettes. I'm sorry, I should stop. What did somebody come out about marijuana? Something came out about marijuana too. Oh yeah, like Holder saying, enough already. And it's true. We have managed to criminalize huge swaths of the American population, and specifically African Americans, destroying family structures there. He says, how come they're family? Well, you put you rounded up black men who had a joint or two on them, and you put them in jail for God knows how long. Which, of course, could get us into the stop and frisk stuff. Jesus. Excuse me. I have some emails to share. Joe writes about the Waterworks Mall. I was saying, I don't mean Waterworks. I meant Waterfront. I can't keep those two straight. Why would you build two malls? Call one the Waterfront and one the Waterworks. I have to think about it. I know the Waterworks are the ones in, like, Fox Chapel. I know that. Waterfront, Waterworks, water everywhere. I know. Jeez. Didn't mean to scream at you. I know. Margie says, I celebrated my 55th on Sunday. Everybody's got a birthday. I'll tell you, happy birthday. And we went on the ducky tours. Quack, quack. It was great fun, and to think we're 5 minutes from downtown and forget what a beautiful city we live in. On the boat was a family from Germany, and they loved the city. That's great. That's good. It's a beautiful city. Now, if you took a ducky tour in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and went downtown, and here is the rubble of a former fine little Midwestern town. In their wisdom, the city fathers decided to destroy the center of the city. Paul writes, I don't know if you reported on the Attorney General refusing to defend the Pennsylvania marriage law. Yes, I certainly noted Kathleen Kane's refusal. And Paul writes, by the end of the business day on Tuesday, imagine a week ago, 84 licenses had been issued to same-sex couples. This is by the one registrar near Philly, right? Had been issued to same-sex couples, and 22 of those 84 are now married and had their licenses recorded by the registrar of wills. Also, yes, Mayor Fetterman of Braddock recently married a same-sex couple here. We need these courageous people to continue the fight for civil rights, and I commend legislator Brian Sims for all he is doing in this regard. It's a matter of time, Paul. The dominoes is a falling down. On the other hand, you can see as this starts to happen, it's always the backlash. It's, so you get you get African Americans making incredible progress, so much so that there is an African American president of the United States, and then you see that upswing in just flat-out, jaw-dropping racism, right? Like the Missouri State Fair. In regard to gays, you see that here and in some other nations, and then you see, there was a story in the paper today that I could not read. I could only see the headline, and I thought, no, I can't. And it was about a mob in Jamaica killing a teenage boy who was, I think it said, transgendered. A mob ripped him apart. And then you've got Russia, always a progressive nation. You got Russia and such institutionalized, aggressive homophobia that results in death, terrorism. You've got many, many nations in Africa. And a lot of the African nations got to the pretty pass they are because of evangelical Christians, missionaries, bringing them the word of God and funding their homophobia. Did you see this woman in Tennessee who had a kid, and she and her husband are estranged? What else is new? And they went to the child support court because they were arguing about what the kid's last name would be. Would it be her name? Would it be his name? And the judge that got their case, child support magistrate Lou Ann Ballou, she gave the kid a name. She took both their last names and put them both on the kid. I mean, yeah, duh. However, she took the kid's given name, his first name, and threw it out. The name he'd been named. Because the parents had named him. Both had agreed on this one. They had named the 7-month-old kid Messiah.
What?
Yes. Not what you would do. Not what I would do. But they named him Messiah. And here's what the judge said about that. The word Messiah is a title that has only been earned by one person. And that one person is Jesus Christ. Well, Your Honor, I would argue that no judge in this country operating in a civil justice system has the right to impose your religious views in a judgment. Just because you think there's only one Messiah, these people seem to think their kid is a Messiah. Fine. Then I really find this outrageous. I do. I would not name the kid Messiah, but look at the names people are giving kids. I mean, is that so terrible? If the very fact that she based her claim on her own religious belief should negate it. Out of hand. But get this. According to the Social Security Administration, which of course records, knows who's who and what's what, more than 700 babies in the United States were named Messiah just last year. So there's 700. Well, now there's 699. But I got a feeling this little kid can have his name back. There are 700 other Messiahs. And it is the fourth highest trending name between 2011 and 12. It's fourth highest. So there's going to be lots of Messiahs wandering around. And it's fourth highest in trending names for males behind, get this. Number 1 is Major. Number 2 is Gael, Gael. And number 3 is Jace. Jase.
Short for Jason or just Jace?
Just Jace. Major, Gael, Jace, and Messiah. Those are the 4 biggies. So, I used to love when the news was such that you could get all worked up over a story like that. Remember that? Remember those days when things were easier? Damn. Well, I think that's it. I just want to make sure I'm not missing any of your... I don't think I am. Okay. Time's up. Chris Potter tomorrow? Mm-hmm. Man, there's a guy who never sleeps. Mm-hmm. There's a guy who just keeps working. I'm going on vacations left and right, and he just keeps on chugging along. Chris Potter tomorrow, Tom Sokolowski on Thursday, Pirates Cardinals tonight. I don't even care if you don't care. We can't get swept. Well, I guess we just proved that we can. What a stupid thing to say. So let me just say this. Go Bucks. Talk at you tomorrow.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.